Hello, my name is Matthias and welcome to the FPLScope and the Weekly Wildcard Draft for Game Week 8. I'm sorry about the lack of content lately. I have been busy watching two dogs that I don't really have usually. My friend asked me to dog watch for a week while he's away on vacation, so I've been doing that and I've been just enjoying the international break really. But anyways, I'm back here. I'm ready to talk about FPL again. I've basically put FPL aside the last week, and then this week I've sort of gotten more into it and started to prepare for what's to come in this upcoming game week in Game Week 8. And I'm going to do this as always, the weekly wildcard drafts, hence the name. I do a wildcard draft every single week, and the point of this is to basically give you, if you're on a wildcard, you have a wildcard draft that I think is the best squad to have currently in FPL, and also if you're not on a wildcard, this is also a nice way for you to get to know what is the best players to have within like the team structure of like 100 million or 100 million plus ish, depending on your team value currently. But yeah, I am presenting this in a different way than most people do. For me, I'm going to start with the number one pick, who's going to be the player that I think is the most important player to have in FPL currently. And then the 15th pick is going to be the player that I have in my squad still, but that I'm the most unsure about having in my squad, if that makes sense. But yeah, I'm going to go through that. Also going to talk about the players that have dropped out since the last draft that I did, which was on October 2nd. And I'm also going to talk about the players that were close to making the draft, but just didn't quite make the cut. So yeah, let's start with the number one pick, which is going to be the player I think is the most important to have currently in FPL. And that is still going to be Erling Haaland, despite blanking in the last two game weeks and despite being, 15.4 million now or something like that. He's still super expensive, but he is also expensive for a reason because he's the best captaincy choice. And with the fixtures that he has now, especially in the next two, I think he's the best player to have currently in FPL. We know how good Haaland is, and despite the two blanks that he had, and also quite a disappointing last game now for Norway in the international break against Austria, he's still a really, really good player. And he did score 2 goals, to be fair, in the first game against Slovenia for Norway. So yeah, he's still looking pretty good, and we know for Manchester City he's an absolute beast, especially against the likes of Wolverhampton and Southampton, who just keep conceding a lot of goals. Wolverhampton conceded 5 goals against Brentford, so you can only imagine what Man City can do against them. So I think Haaland is the best captaincy choice, especially the next 2 game weeks, and for that reason I think he's just someone that you must have because he could score a hat-trick in both games, and you don't want to be missing that if you go without him, basically. So yeah, if I was on wildcard or if I was in a regular team, I would try to get Haaland in for this game week because I think the next 2 game weeks he's going to be really, really good and going to be the best captaincy choice, especially. So yeah, that's why he's number 1 pick. Number 2, we have Brian Mbeumo. He's also been in amazing form lately, or he has been in amazing form compared to Haaland actually. Has been scoring left and right. I did say that Wolverhampton conceded 5 goals against Brentford, and that just shows you how much potential Mbeumo has. He's the penalty taker, he's the talisman for Brentford, and he's been amazing all season, and they have fantastic matches still. Man United away is probably going to be a pretty decent game. You expect Man United to try to attack in that game as compared to like a bigger game for Man United like they had last week, where they tried to defend more. This time around, I think they will attack more, and that will open up more things defensively. And I think they are very much a team that you can benefit from having offensive players against or playing against them, basically. So Mbeumo, really good match there. Ipswich at home is a fantastic game. They just conceded 4 goals to West Ham. That's a brilliant game. Fulham away is a pretty difficult fixture to score goals in. But then Bournemouth at home is also a pretty decent fixture when it comes to scoring goals. So yeah, I think Mbeumo is just tremendous value. And he has fantastic fixtures, so there's no reason to go without Mbeumo in my opinion. I think he is the standout midfield option to choose, and he's the number 1 pick for that reason. Number 3, we have Cole Palmer. He's also another huge standout player, obviously. He's also marked with green, which means he's new from last time around. He was not in my Game Week 7 draft, and that's because I prefer to have Saka, who scored 16 points last game week. But now that Saka has tougher matches and Palmer is going to get into easier matches pretty soon, I think it's about time to make the switch, especially with Saka's slight injury doubts, especially. So yeah, spoilers, a bit of spoiler there. Saka is out and Palmer is in because you can't really afford too many players in the squad. But I think Palmer is fantastic. I think the fixtures against Newcastle at home and Man United away are really good fixtures. Like I said with Mbeumo against Man United, I think against Chelsea, Man United might set up more defensively, so maybe that will be tougher for Palmer. But I still think it's a pretty good match for them, especially seeing how Chelsea have looked so far this season. Newcastle at home, I think, is a way different beast than Newcastle are away, so I think that's going to be a really good fixture for them as well. Obviously, bookended by Liverpool and Arsenal, but after the Arsenal game as well, Chelsea going to really, really good fixtures, and that's when you can double up on the attack potentially with Palmer and Nicholas Jackson, for example. I did actually consider Jackson, but I'll get to that towards the end of the video. But Palmer, he's been amazing. He's still underpriced despite getting the highest price hike of all time in FPL. he's still underpriced, and that's something we should have acknowledged at the start of the season. We were too enamored with Nkunku, and for good reason, to be honest, because Nkunku is scoring left, right, and center in every single game he has for Chelsea. He just doesn't get to play in the league for some reason. So yeah, Palmer is definitely worth the price. I think he is going to be almost a season keeper, so that's another reason why he's so high up in the rankings here. He's number 3 for that reason, despite having pretty tough fixtures, especially against Liverpool and Arsenal. I still think he's amazing, and I think Chelsea's attack especially have looked really, really good so far, and I think they can score goals, especially against Liverpool. I think that's going to be a really interesting game to see how good Liverpool are defensively, because so far they've been really, really good defensively, and I see how good Chelsea can be offensively, because they've been really, really good offensively. So I think it's going to be a really interesting matchup. And I wouldn't be too surprised to see Palmer get a decent score in that game either. So yeah, Palmer is an amazing pick, and that's why he's number 3. Number 4, we have Brendan Johnson going all the way up from number 12 last week to number 4 this week. He scored again, and then he scored again in Europe, or was it with Wales, I guess, now in the international break. So he's just on fire, just keeps scoring every single game week. It seems like he's in tremendous form, and the fixtures are especially really, really good for Spurs. 3 of the next 4 are at home. West Ham at home, which is a really good fixture, despite West Ham now being a bit better defensively since Todibo came in. So I don't think it's the easiest match, West Ham at home anymore, but it's still a favorable match, as you can see there from the graphic. Crystal Palace away. Palace have been really bad defensively, or in general this season. I think that's a good game for him. Aston Villa at home. Aston Villa still leak goals. They still concede a lot of goals. I think that's a decent fixture still, even though defensively it's going to be tougher. Aston Villa might win that game, but we also saw last season that Spurs just absolutely destroyed them. So that could also be a good fixture for Johnson. And then Ipswich at home in the fixture after that. So I think Johnson, being the in-form player for Spurs, seems to be their main goal scorer currently. For all those reasons, I think he should be at number 4. And number 5 is also another Spurs attacking player, and that is Solanke. Like I said, the fixtures are really, really good. I think Solanke is still an amazing pick. Was a bit disappointing last game week against Brighton. I did expect him to do more, but he still got an assist. But it seems like he's a bit more, I don't know. It depends on the game, I guess. We shouldn't really read too much into the Brighton game, but in that game, he looked a bit more defensively minded. So that's why he's dropped from number 2 pick last week, where I had a lot of faith in him, to number 5 pick now, because he looked a bit more defensive than I wanted him to be. I want him to be that focal point for Spurs and score the goals. And last time around, he was more in that playmaking role. But I guess that's just game dependent. So I think that could change for next game week. He has been really, really good so far this season. And I think he's a fantastic player to have as well. So Johnson and Solanke are players that I'm going to talk about a lot this week, because they are players that I'm considering quite heavily with my own squad as well. So yeah, they are really, really good players to transfer in at this point, just with the good fixtures that they have, even though, like I said, I don't think the West Ham fixture is as good as people claim it is, because I think West Ham have improved defensively, and in general, the last few game weeks, I think they're just starting to figure things out under Lopetegui now. So yeah, it's still a good fixture though, so it shouldn't really scare you off bringing in Spurs players either. Number 6, we have Rico Lewis from Man City. It just seems to me that he plays pretty much every single game for City. That's impossible under Pep Guardiola, but I think he is nailed enough to be worth the price and more as a 4.7 defender for Man City, who's playing basically as a midfielder. I think that's just tremendous value, and that's why I think he's the best current player to have in defense. He showed in the Champions League how much of a potential he has in FPL as well. He hasn't really showed FPL-wise that much in terms of points so far, but we just know how offensively minded he plays. We know how good City can be defensively at points, even though they are without Rodri. But going without Rodri is both a plus and a minus for Lewis. The minus is the fact that they're going to concede more goals, because Rodri is such an important player to Man City. The plus is that means a lot more playing time for Lewis. He has pretty consistently played a lot for Man City whenever Rodri has been out. And this is something that I noticed last season as well, when I brought in Julian Alvarez in Game Week 3 and had a lot of success with him. He came on and played a lot of the time when Kevin De Bruyne was out, and he was out injured last season, and that I was proven right in that regard. He just kept playing, and I think that's going to be the same with Rico Lewis. I think he's just a pretty nailed player now at Rodri out. It seems like Guardiola just prefers to have Lewis in there when he doesn't have Rodri to rely on. So I think the playing time is really, really good for Lewis. The fixtures are still really, really good. And I think he's also in a really good offensive role, and he's still really good value. So yeah, I think he's just the best defensive player to have currently in FPL, and that's why he's the number 6 pick and the first pick overall out of the defenders so far. Speaking of defenders, we have another defender in Trent Alexander-Arnold. He's another player that I am really enamored with this season. Like I said, Liverpool have been really, really good defensively, and Trent has shown a lot of promise offensively as well. Points-wise, it's been really good so far, obviously, with all the clean sheets, but we still expect more offensively from Trent. He has tough fixtures: Chelsea at home, Arsenal away, Brighton at home, Aston Villa at home, but at least 3 out of the 4 are at home as well. But I think Trent, just both with the defensive potential and the attacking potential, he can get points in so many different ways. I still think he's way, definitely worth the price. He's only, 7.2 or something right now. Amazing value still. People claim that he should be 9 million a couple of seasons back, and he seems better than ever in my opinion. So I still think he's a player to have despite the bad fixture for Liverpool. But yeah, I think Trent is just a special player, so that's why it's number 7 for that reason, despite really, really tough fixtures. Number 8, we have Morgan Rogers still, and he's, again, just a really good value play. He's really cheap still. He plays pretty much 90 minutes every game. He's really attacking, looks really, really good, has scored a couple of goals, gotten some assists lately as well. So yeah, I think Rogers is just really, really good value, and that's why I really like to have him in the squad, just as a safe starter basically, and someone that you can bench on occasion when he has really tough fixtures. The fixtures aren't too bad. Fulham away is pretty tough. Fulham have been really good defensively, especially at home this season. Anderson in defense has made a huge difference for them, so that's going to be a tough game for Rodgers and Aston Villa. Bournemouth at home is a decent fixture. Spurs away, we've seen Spurs concede 3 goals now against Brighton. Could easily see Aston Villa score the same amount of goals as well, so that could be a really high scoring match. And then Liverpool away is obviously tough, but Rodgers is basically just really good value, and he's someone that is potentially a season keeper for me. I've had him since game week 1, and I don't really see any reason to sell him. He's just tremendous value at his price and the playing time that he has for a really, really good team. So depending on what happens with Champions League, maybe he gets less playing time with more and more fixtures piling up eventually, getting closer to Christmas, but I still think he is just amazing value and someone that plays a lot. But yeah, he's dropped a bit down in the rankings because yeah, Aston Villa do get tougher fixtures the next few game weeks, but he's still someone that I would really consider to have in the squad if I didn't have him already. But I do have him already, and I don't really look into any reasons to sell him either, so that's why he's number 8 pick. Number 9, we have Matheus Cunha in attack. He is a new player as well, as you can see, marked with green. He came in as the final striker. That's basically because the fixtures for Wolves are about to turn really, really good. Not immediately, I should note, Man City this week. So if you're on just a free transfer, I would not transfer Cunha in this week. But next week onwards against Brighton, who conceded twice to Spurs, then Crystal Palace at home, Southampton at home, 2 really, really good fixtures after that. And then there's just a parade of really, really good fixtures for Cunha. So I think it's just tremendous value going forward. He's been so good so far this season. I think he's on penalties most likely for Wolves. Especially among the nailed players, he's the penalty taker. So yeah, I think Cunha is tremendous value. He's a really, really good player. I've seen people really talk bad about him and stuff, but I don't really get it because I think Cunha is amazing. He's always been a wonder kid, and he's finally proving that he's worth it for Wolverhampton, despite a pretty high price tag, I should note. But that doesn't really matter for FPL. He's not really that expensive in FPL, only 6.5 or so right about now. So I think he's an amazing pick still. Cunha. So yeah, that's why it's a number 9 pick, but you could easily bench him for this game week, or you could potentially start him over Rodgers. That's going to be a bit of a conundrum, I guess, between those 2 players, but I have a pretty good final midfielder as well. So yeah, you could easily bench 1 or potentially even 2 of them, depending on who your defenders are basically this week. Moving on to number 10, we have Emil Smith-Rowe, and he plays Aston Villa at home next week, and I think Aston Villa are not the best defensively, so I think he can score that game. And we've seen, especially with Smith-Rowe, he's really, really good in home games, so I think he is a really good player in the game weeks against Aston Villa and Brentford especially, but also Everton and Palace away in those other fixtures. Fixtures are looking really, really good. Smith-Rowe is someone that I was considering at the start of the season. I went for Muniz instead out of the Fulham players. I really regret that because Smith-Rowe has been amazing so far, especially at home, like I said. And that's why he's the number 10 pick. He's not really that expensive either, and he plays really, really well. He's been getting more and more minutes as his fitness has gone along. So yeah, I think Smith-Rowe is a fantastic player to have. In general, I think Fulham have been really, really good this season, and yeah, there's just a lot of good reasons to bring him in. But yeah, Fulham are also a tough team to gauge, I guess. They have been really good so far, but who knows what's going to happen in the future with them. But yeah, Smith-Rowe is a really, really good player, and I really like him with the number 10 pick, basically, in my Weekly Wildcard Draft selection. Number 11, we have Gabriel Magalhaes, who's taken a bit of a bump down since last time. I am hugely enamored by Gabriel Magalhaes. I've been a huge fan of his in FPL for basically since ever since he started playing regularly for Arsenal. He's just a major set-piece threat in any game, but he has dropped down a bit just because of the fixtures. They had Southampton at home last week, which was obviously a really good fixture, but now they have Bournemouth away, which is kind of tough. Then Liverpool, which is really tough. Newcastle away, which is a tough fixture, and Chelsea away as well. So 3 out of the next 4 are away from home. Really tough fixtures in general. But the good thing about Arsenal is that they are just a tremendous defense, regardless of the circumstances, basically, even against really tough teams, and especially away from home. They've been really good defensively. So they seem to be a team that likes to lock up defensively whenever they face tough oppositions, and that's really good for his clean sheet potential, Gabriel. I still think he's a fantastic player to have. So yeah, he's number 11 pick. Not quite as sure. I was close to swapping out for a defender that I'm going to talk about eventually in this video, but I still think Gabriel is just the goal threat. Again, he's kind of like Trent. He has that goal threat every game from corners, which is a huge weapon for Arsenal, and that clean sheet threat despite having really tough fixtures. So I think, again, both the Trent and Gabriel, I just really like them as picks regardless of their fixtures, basically, because I think they have so many ways to score points, both in terms of goals, assists in Trent Alexander-Arnold's case, and clean sheets and bonus points as well on top of that. So yeah, Gabriel is number 11 for that reason, despite the tough fixtures that he has. It's also nice to just have really good Arsenal players in general for later on, whenever you want to bring in more Arsenal players, whenever their fixtures get better eventually. He's going to be a really good player to just have in your team in general. So yeah, he's number 11 pick for that reason. Number 12, we have Ait-Nouri, who's been super offensively minded this season. And yes, Wolves haven't been the best defensively. They do concede a lot of goals, conceded 5 goals against Brentford, but Ait-Nouri just keeps getting attacking returns as well. Keeps getting involved in the box, creates chances, gets big chances, scores some goals, gets some assists. Yeah, he's just really good offensively. And for the price that he is, at a really cheap price, I think he's just tremendous value, especially once the fixtures get better. Like I said, with Cunha, Ait-Nouri's fixtures are going to get really good eventually as well. So yeah, I think he's just a really nice player to have as like your fourth defender, which is perfect. Someone that you can play whenever you have a tough fixture for one of your attackers. And my dog right next to me, or the dog that I'm watching right next to me, is itchy now. So yeah, scratching himself, or herself, I should say. It's a girl. But anyways, Ait-Nouri is a dog on the pitch, I guess. So he's really good. And yeah, I think he's someone that you should really consider for your team, for especially for the price that he is with the fixtures that he has as well. He's just a really good pick to have. Yeah, let's move on to the next pick, and yeah, that is Sanchez in goal for Chelsea. Here's the dog in question. Hello. But yeah, Sanchez, I think, is the best player to have in goal currently, or for the long term, because that's the thing with goalkeepers. They are someone that you want to just have for the long haul. You don't want to do goalkeeper transfers. It's really boring. So despite having the tough fixtures, especially for the next 4 game weeks, I still think Sanchez is a good pick. He got 4 points last time around despite conceding a goal because he got so many saves. He's just a tremendous pick, I think, just because he has been really good when it comes to saves this season. And yeah, I think Chelsea are just a good team this season, probably undervalued players in general. So Sanchez for 4.7 is worth the price in my opinion. So yeah, he comes in at number 13 for that reason. Number 14, we have Sepp van den Berg from Brentford, who is looking like a pretty nailed player currently. He's 4.0 obviously, so he's a really decent player to have in general. Really good fixtures, just the same as Mbeumo. Man United away, Ipswich at home, Fulham away, and Bournemouth at home. So he's someone you can play here and there as well. I really quite like him as a pick in general. And especially for that price, I think he's just the best enabler to have. You could go with Jacob Greaves, I guess, instead, but I think Brentford are just a better team with better fixtures currently than Ipswich. But Ipswich have decent fixtures as well, so he's the one you could consider. But yeah, Van den Berg has also played offensively minded sometimes, but the other slight drawback, I guess, with Van den Berg is the fact that he's not quite as nailed as a player as Greaves is. So it's a bit tight between those two players, but I still think Van den Berg is the best 4.0 defender to have in FPL. Moving on to the 15th pick, that is going to be Łukasz Fabianski, as he's called, for West Ham. So he's going to be... the dog is craving attention. Yeah, so he's just going to be the 15th pick because there are no good 4.0 goalkeepers to have. I think Fabianski is the one closest to getting playtime. Ariola gets injured quite a lot, so maybe you'll get a 4.0 goalkeeper if you're really lucky with Fabianski. But yeah, he's the 15th pick for a reason, because he's not really that important to have in your squad. I would not use a transfer to bring in Fabianski, to put it like that. But anyways, that is the full squad, but we still have 4 players that have gotten into the side. We see Palmer, Cunha, Smith-Rowe, and Ait-Nouri are marked with green, which means that they are new players from last time around. That means that 4 players have dropped out, and I'm going to talk about those guys before I end the video, talking about a couple players that I have also considered, but that just didn't make the cut. We're really close. They're on the cusp, as it says there on the graphics, basically. Yeah, so the 4 players that have dropped out, 2 Arsenal players, Havertz and Saka, both have slight issues from international break when it comes to injuries. And I don't think they're going to be, I think it's just international break injuries. There have been some new positive reports about Saka. So I think if you have Saka currently in your team and you don't have a wildcard, I think you could easily wait for game week 9 to do the transfer from Saka to Palmer. But yeah, I think Arsenal fixtures, they still have that decent fixture against Bournemouth away. And Arsenal are obviously a really, really good team, so any fixture is decent for them. But I think we just with the fixtures after that, Liverpool at home, Newcastle away, Chelsea away, I think there's just no reason to have that many Arsenal players anymore. So yeah, Havertz and Saka drop out for that reason, but I still think they are really, really good picks. But yeah, the money that I get from Havertz, I could use to upgrade Dibbling to Smith-Rowe. And Saka could obviously be sold for Palmer, because long term, I think Palmer is just better than Saka. And also short term for that matter, after this game week. From game week 9 onwards, Palmer's going to be a better pick than Saka. Full stop, I think. Number 10, Mykolenko, or he was number 10 last week. He has dropped out as well. I just think Ait-Nouri is better value, I guess. It's pretty close between them, so that's why Ait-Nouri is pretty low on the totem pole, I guess. You could go with Mykolenko rather than Berg as well if you just want to have that extra security and defense, but I'm most likely just going to bench Berg every single week anyway, so it doesn't really matter. Yeah, whether you pick him or Mykolenko, they're just going to be on the bench mostly anyway. But I could see the reason to pick Mykolenko. He is a decent player to have, so yeah, he's someone that you could pick, but yeah, I just prefer Berg and Ait-Nouri as the backup defenders rather than Mykolenko, I guess. And then Dibbling, just felt like I wanted to have Smith-Rowe. I think he's a really good player to have this week while Cunha is on the bench. And I think it's just better value in general. Dibbling is looking decent. He has really good fixtures now in game week 8 and game week 10, so he is a really nice enabler to have. But I had a couple extra money in the bank this game week from selling Havertz and getting Cunha. So I had enough money to go from Dibbling to Smith-Rowe, and I think it's worth it because I think Smith-Rowe is going to be a really good pick going forward. So yeah, that's why Dibbling has dropped out as well. So those are the players that have dropped out. Let's look at the 3 players that I have considered but that I didn't choose in the squad eventually. So yeah, first one is Guardiola. I did consider doing Gabriel to Guardiola because I think Guardiola is going to get points eventually. I've just been waiting for him to finally explode and do really, really well in FPL, but Man City keep conceding goals. Maybe that's just from Rodri being out. I think that's going to affect Guardiola in a negative way, especially in terms of clean sheets, which is the main factor why you would have Guardiola. But he is pretty offensively minded. Even when he plays as a centre back, he can be in the box and get shots off as well. That's the plus from him compared to Lewis. He's better at scoring goals than Lewis. He's more likely to shoot, but at the same time, he's also more expensive. So I think Lewis is just the standout pick out of the two, and I would rather double up than go with Guardiola over Lewis. But Guardiola is someone that I definitely would consider, especially with Guardiola and Gabriel's tough fixtures coming up. Nicholas Jackson, I did mention that I quite like Chelsea, but it's a bit too early. Liverpool away is a tough fixture. Arsenal is also a tough fixture. Newcastle and United, I think, are decent fixtures, like I said, for Palmer, but I think I wouldn't double up with Chelsea when it comes to those fixtures. But for game week 12 onwards, after the game against Arsenal, I think a double up is definitely viable. So he's someone that I would definitely consider at that point. I think Nicholas Jackson has proven this season that he is a tremendous striker. He is one of the best strikers in the Premier League, and yeah, he's been underrated last season especially, and I'm happy to see him get his flowers finally. So yeah, he's someone that you should take note of. And Kulusevski, speaking of players that deserves their flowers, Kulusevski has been absolutely amazing in his number 10 role lately, and I think he's someone that you could consider rather than Johnson potentially, or just have as a triple up with Spurs, but that's a bit aggressive, I think. So yeah, I just wanted to mention him. He's looked really good for Sweden as well, despite playing through a cold. So yeah, I think Kulusevski is a tremendous pick who you should consider as well, but I think Johnson and Solanke are my preferred Spurs players currently, but that could change. So Kulusevski might come into play. Gonna need some more game weeks to see how he plays in the new role that he has, and if Johnson and Solanke keep up their good form. So that's basically it when it comes to Kulusevski. But yeah, that's pretty much it for the video. You can see if my current rank as well has gone up. I'm into the top 700k just about, so I'm doing pretty well so far in FPL. Doing better than most content creators, it seems like. So pretty happy with that, and I'm going to update you when it comes to my squad and my plans as well going forward eventually this week. Johnson and Solanke, like I mentioned, are 2 players that I'm really strongly considering, seeing as I have Haaland and Mbeumo already, and Palmer is someone that I want to bring in for next week with my own team as well. So plenty of these top picks in this Weekly Wildcard Draft squad are players that I'm considering myself, and a lot of the players that are in the squad, I also have myself in my own squad. So yeah, pretty happy with the squad in general. Let me know what you think. Do you think there's any players that I missed, any players that I haven't talked about, any picks that you think are dubious and you don't really trust that much? Maybe you don't like Johnson for some reason. Maybe you think Ait-Nouri is just not good enough when it comes to clean sheet potential. Maybe you don't like the goalkeeper choice. I don't know. Whatever your query is, if you have any questions about your team yourself, or if you want a wildcard or not, potentially if you still have that wildcard left, please let me know in the comments as well, and I'll try to help you as best as I can. When it comes to Game Week 8 as a wildcard week, I think you should wait for probably Game Week 12 when the fixtures get a bit better, potentially even Game Week 9 if you want to load up on, if you want to sell Arsenal players and bring in Chelsea players, for example. It could also be a better game week to wildcard. So I don't think that it's the best game week to wildcard, but if your team is just looking terrible, or if you've already used the wildcard chip, then definitely I would go with a squad like this, pretty close to this at least. But yeah, that's pretty much it for the video. Thank you for watching, and say goodbye to the dog, who's now very much relaxing. And well, now he's not relaxing because he got attention from the camera. I hope you enjoyed it. Hope you enjoyed the dogs as well. A nice addition for this week. They're gonna leave me tomorrow, so that's gonna be a bit sad. But had a nice week with them, and looking forward to talk to you, my dogs, later on this week. But yeah, anyways, thank you for watching as always, and I'll see you next time. Bye bye.